Hello everyone, it is Caller on the way here, and today we're going to be making a matchup chart for Inkling. I haven't made a matchup chart in a good while, ever since the last patch I'm pretty sure. So I thought it would be a good time to make one and make a video about it since I haven't done that before. So yeah, let's just get right into it. So we're going to start off with Banjo, very top. I think this matchup is slight advantage. So in this matchup, you kind of have to camp quite a bit in neutral to actually play it optimally. The matchup is actually pretty annoying on Wi-Fi. I do not like playing this matchup on Wi-Fi. It's very annoying. But yeah, usually Banjo just jumps up and grenades. Probably is going to double jump. You can call that out. Sun is the only thing I need to note about the matchup. You can edge guard Banjo pretty well when he has an up B and stuff. It's kind of the only thing I have to know about the matchup. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward. You get your grabs, you get your combos, get your edge guards. It's pretty much a win for Inkling. You just gotta play patient and neutral. I guess I could talk about Steve next. She's actually first. She's actually before Banjo. So I think this matchup is a slight advantage for Inkling. That was so stupid. Why did I do that? So in neutral, whenever Steve or Alex or Enderman is mining, you can just let them mine. I usually let them mine. You don't really have to mess with them. Like, it doesn't really matter if they have diamond. I don't really care if they have diamond. If they get a grab on you, you have to SDI their combos so you get minimized damage taken. Like, if you just SDI their combos, you won't take as much damage as you would be. Like, you'll take like maybe 30% instead of like 40 or 50. You have to SDI their combos pretty well. This matchup's better for Inkling, especially when she has the lead, since she can just camp out and Steve has to approach. So yeah, that's just pretty good for Inkling right there. There's also quite a few things that Inkling can do against minecart specifically. If the Steve wants a minecart out of disadvantage when they're recovering, like and they're like high up in the air, you can splat on the minecart and it will win every time. If the minecart's on the ground, you can splatter shot Steve in the minecart. It might interrupt Steve going forward, or the minecart will just get pushed back by the wind box's splatter shot. So yeah, it's just interesting interactions with minecart, and Inkling can deal with minecart decently well if anticipated. So yeah, this is pretty good. So I'm gonna talk about Olimar and Alf. This matchup is kind of annoying. Olimar is pretty good at playing horizontally, so that's just pretty good against Inkling for the most part. If there are platforms, you have to use them pretty well against Olimar. In neutral, Splatter Shot can stop the Pikmin from coming at you, like stop them from getting on you. Kind of a weird interaction of how it works. But Inkling does not really have the best options for getting Pikmin off of her. Olimar also has a very small upper window. I think it only works at like 99 or something. I think it'll be pretty hard to get it on reactions, so I recommend just re-DI it on Olimar, and you should be able to get it at like 98-99%. You have to get your edge guards on point on this character, or it'll be really hard in neutral probably to kill this character. Like, you have to get them like at the ledge, like get your edge guards on point, and you should be able to get the kills. Otherwise, it'll just be really hard to get kills a lot of the time. Got Bayo. This matchup is annoying for her. In neutral, you have to watch when you space your back airs, because if you miss one, you'll just get up out of shield and take probably 30%. So you have to space your back airs and you should be fine on Bayo's shield. As long as you play patient against Bayo, you should be fine against her. Like, you just gotta watch out for side Bs and when she wants to approach. Her upper armor window is actually pretty big. It's like a 20% window, and it starts like 100, so it's not that hard to kill with Bayo. I hear a lot of different opinions on Bayo. They think it sucks. Some of them think it's like here to close to even, but I'm gonna put it here for now. Okay, so Bowser, a very somewhat controversial matchup for Inkling mains. They all say it's even, but I personally think that is a slight advantage for Inkling. Playing this matchup online, I think it's even. Like, it's a lot more annoying than it is offline. In neutral, when Bowser jumps, he's gonna Fire Breath or do a forward air. So in neutral, you gotta know when the Bowser's gonna do either or, and you should just punish accordingly. Like, do a roll back, dash back into you so you intercept Bowser from behind. Bowser also tends to like the shield a lot more than most characters, so you can get away a little bit more with dash grabbing in this matchup. If you do get your grass grabs, you should be getting a lot of damage on Bowser. It's pretty easy to combo this character. You also Let's Trap and edge guard Bowser pretty well in this matchup. That's something Inkling has in the matchup I favor. But yeah, it's definitely a matchup you have to play on point for it to be like truly optimized or whatever. Bowser Jr. is also in slight advantage in my opinion. The matchup is honestly kind of weird. A lot of neutral in this matchup is Bowser Jr. side B. You kind of have to respect it, stuff it out if you can. Roller actually beats side B when it's on the ground, so that's good. It's kind of a weird matchup to explain. Like, I know for edge guarding, you can cheese Bowser Jr. with Splatter Shot if you up B's, so he has to play around that a lot. But yeah, this matchup is weird to talk about. Like, there's not really much to talk about. Inkling does pretty good against Byleth. Byleth just doesn't have the speed to keep up with Inkling in neutral, and if she just tries to use her aerials, Byleth will not be able to hit Inkling. It's really hard to hit Inkling in this matchup. Off stage is kind of rough because you don't have the best airspeed, and Inkling can just easily edge guard you for free a lot of the time if you're not already in tether. Yeah, the matchup is hard, really hard for Byleth. It's really hard for Byleth to get anything started in it. Okay, so for Falcon, this matchup used to be really bad, like super early ultimate. I think it's so +1, but this matchup was possibly +2 before Falcon got almost every buff in the world. So in this matchup, Inkling kind of destroys Falcon in almost everything. Neutral is really good for Inkling in this matchup. Falcon's also pretty easy to edge guard and the ledge trap. His upper window is pretty big. He's easy to combo. Like, if Falcon does get openings, he can be lethal because he can kill you like 30, 40, 50 or whatever. But it's not going to happen a lot of the time, so you really don't have to worry about it a lot. Alright, so I think Chrom is slight advantage for Inkling. Chrom overall does pretty good against Inkling until he's off stage. It is so easy to edge guard this character, it's not even funny. Like, if Chrom didn't have a bad recovery, this matchup would definitely be even. But his recovery just drags him down in this matchup. So Cloud is kind of like Chrom. His recovery is also really bad. Yeah, it's a lot like Chrom. He keeps up in neutral, keeps up in advantage state. But like, his off stage is just bad, dude. It's just really hard for Cloud to come back to stage, and it's just drags him down. Corrin is slight advantage. Corrin doesn't really have the speed in neutral to hit Inkling a lot of the time. You can just weave in and out and whiff punish Corrin, whatever she does. You can also edge guard Corrin a decent amount of the time when you have the chance to do it. Upper window is pretty big, it's like 22%. So for the pit, I think that these two matchups are a slight winning. Not much to talk about in this matchup. The upper window is actually pretty big, now that I think about it. They're pretty basic characters, and Inkling is a character that can kind of counteract these kind of playstyles. So yeah, you could just do pretty well against these characters. Okay, so Dark Samus is a slight loss in Inkling. I think that this matchup could be even offline, but online, super bad. I hate it. So Inkling's game plan doesn't really work against Samus that well. It doesn't work very consistently. Like, if Inkling wants the bear, at some point, Samus can just run back and just do a charge shot, and you take 20%, and maybe some more. It's a matchup you have to play patient to win it. Samus is pretty hard to edge guard, so that won't be really a factor in the matchup for Samus. It's just a matchup you can't play super linear, or you'll just lose. Like, that's just what it comes down to. Okay, Diddy Kong. The first matchup in even so far. So, the thing I want to know about this matchup that I think that could be really important is when Diddy has banana, when he throws it, Splatter Shot can just push it away. The wind box of it can push it away. So it's something that Diddy has to look out for in the matchup. But if you don't have it preemptively pulled out, Splatter Shot, banana can be really good for Diddy in this matchup. That's why it keeps up in neutral. When Diddy is pretty far off stage, you can use Splatter Shot to kill his recovery. He'll just die. Okay, Donkey Kong. This matchup sucks. That's all I need to say. This character's disadvantage against Inkling is really rough for Donkey Kong. He gets juggled decently well. You get edge guarded and comboed really hard by Inkling and ledge traps, so that'll be really rough for Donkey Kong. If Donkey Kong does get advantage, it can be a little annoying for Inkling, but it's not really going to happen since you're going to mostly win neutral a lot of the time anyway, so it should be for Inkling's favor anyway. So for Dr. Mario, the matchup's really hard for him because he doesn't have the mobility to deal with Inkling a lot of the time. His recovery also drags him down pretty hard in this matchup. It's so bad, it's like so free to edge guard him. I would say a neutral Pill is a little annoying. At least on Wi-Fi it's pretty annoying to deal with, but offline I wouldn't say that being that much of an issue. But yeah, it's just hard for Dr. Mario to get anything started on Inkling since you don't have the advantage in neutral. So Duck Hunt, I can see this probably being an even or here. I'll think about it a little later. His projectiles is pretty good in the matchup in neutral, I would say. But I think they're a little more threatening online instead of offline. You just gotta play the matchup decently patient as Inkling and you should be fine. You just don't want to play super linear against Duck Hunt. His recovery is also decently exploitable. Like, if you have the chance, you can edge guard him. Falco is in +1. It's hard for Falco to land a hit on Inkling. Like, up tilt isn't really that much of a factor in neutral unless Inkling is jumping. Like, Inkling can just stay grounded, and up tilt is not really much of a threat. Falco's recovery is also decently exploitable as well. Like, the side B, you can just down smash it. The up B, you can back at a ledge and he has to tag it, and you'll reset the situation, or you can downer it. Fox is either even or slight loss. So Fox overall in the matchup, he's probably controlling the pace of the game a lot of the time. In neutral, he's probably in your face. He's usually controlling the game a lot of the time. But the reason why I could see this matchup being potentially even is because Inkling doesn't have to win neutral all the time. Like, Fox can just lose his stock for just losing neutral once, like messing up once. It could be really tough for him. Fox can be just winning most of the game and Inkling can easily even it back up simply because of Fox's weight and his recovery being exploitable a lot of the time. Ganon is pretty free if you play it right. In this matchup, if you just camp Ganon, it can't really do much. It's pretty easy to beat out his approaches. He is pretty easy to edge guard, so a lot of your stocks are going to be edge guarding Ganondorf. His recovery is just really bad. Even if he's still alive at like 130, you can just up throw up him and he might just die from that. Tough matchup for Ganon. He's bottom 3 for a reason. So Greninja, definitely an even matchup. Greninja's game plan is kind of similar to Inkling's game plan, where you do a lot of dash backs and whip punishes and stuff like that. Neutral's going to be played pretty grounded. You got to space your backers pretty well. It's really not that hard to hit Greninja. Greninja's advantage state is pretty good on Inkling. Once he lands his dash attack, it's not that hard for him to land it, since you guys are both playing grounded. But your advantage state is probably just as good. You can bring the damage back up. Recovery is also decently exploitable, especially if he has to side B back to stage to have a better angle on his up B. But yeah, the characters have similar strengths and they go pretty evenly in the matchup. Okay, so I think Hero is probably even, but I'm gonna put it at side advantage. His aerials are pretty whip punishable, so dash grab is a pretty good thing to look out for in this matchup. I think the menu is pretty good for Hero. Like, Accelerado is pretty good to keep up with Inkling and neutral. Edge guarding Hero isn't that hard. If he doesn't have zoom, you can just time your edge guard pretty well and he might die from not having enough mana. Alright, Ice Climbers. I think Ice Climbers are even. These characters are very annoying to combo. Like, doing grab combos is kind of risky since you can easily grab the wrong one and the other one will punish you for it. Up throw up air basically doesn't exist on this character because of Nana. Probably the only thing I would really note about Ice Climbers, you just can't combo them as well as other characters, obviously. The rest of the matchup is kind of like the normal character that will be in slight advantage. You just don't have that in your kit. I think Ike is a slight win for Inkling. Knowing when to anti-air Ike and knowing when he's going to stay grounded and shield is pretty good. You can actually whip punish Ike's Nair sometimes. It's actually not that inconsistent, especially offline. You just gotta play patient and stay out of Ike's range and you should be fine. When Ike is recovering, you can just hit him on the top of his up B, and sometimes you can down smash his side B when he's going to the ledge, or slightly above the ledge. It's pretty good. But yeah, calling out Ike's jumps is generally pretty good. You can do it with out smash, up air, neutral air, back air. Some stuff to get him off stage or get the kill for it. Incineroar loses the Inkling pretty bad. He cannot keep up in neutral, combo food. Has a pretty big upper window. He gets edge guarded pretty hard. It's tough for him. Not much else to say. Okay, I think Isabelle is slight advantage. Matchup is kind of weird, but in neutral, if Isabelle wants to use down B to put on the ground, you can roll it or backer it to get rid of it, which is pretty good. Slingshot is decent in neutral in this matchup. It's not gonna, a lot of times gonna hit Inkling's dash, but it's something you kind of have to look out for if you want to make a commitment. You can edge guard Isabelle and Villager pretty well if you just get the damage right, and if their kill percent are pretty easy to kill off stage. Okay, so Joker, the matchup I wanted to talk about for an hour now, or whatever. So Inkling's game plan against Joker just works really well on him. Joker kind of has a hard time hitting Inkling, and for a lot of the cast, it's actually really hard to hit Joker, but Inkling is pretty good at hitting Joker with back air, dash grab, jab. It's just really good for Inkling. Usually whenever Inkling is done comboing Joker, he usually gets Arsenics off stage. You can 2-frame him pretty easily with down tilt and sometimes down smash. Half the time when Joker gets Arsene, it's probably going to be half gone when he's back in neutral, so that's just really good. You can also cheese Joker with splatter shots in this matchup. It's actually pretty good since Joker does, his up B gets worse every time he tries up B back, so splatter shot can just mess him up pretty well. His upper window is also 20%, so it's not that hard to kill him either. And this matchup's just really good. It's really good top tier matchup Inkling has and will forever have. Okay, for the Shotos, I think they're both winning for Inkling. Pretty much all you have to do is, if the Shotos want to stay in place and do their close range moves, you just wall them out with back air. And if they want to approach with like a jump approach with like Nair or something, is whip punish them. It's pretty not that hard to dash grab them for it. I don't really think their neutral B is that much of a problem. I wouldn't think it would be that much of a threat to me. You can just jump over it if you know they're gonna do it. But yeah, neutral in this matchup is pretty much in Inkling's favor overall. They're not that hard to kill as well. When you're edge guarding them, they have to side B back. You can edge guard them pretty well. And their upper window is pretty big. So yeah, this matchup is just pretty well in Inkling's favor. Like at the very most, I will put the Shotos like up here. But yeah, I think they're both pretty equally the same. It's just that one punish games is better than the other, but whatever. So Jigs, you have to back air them the entire game. Splatter Shot can push Jigglypuff out of the air a little bit. It can mess up her approaches. Jigglypuff is easy to up air. She has a pretty big window and it's not that hard to do on her, even online. Jigglypuff is pretty good at edge guarding a lot of the casts, but not really on Inkling. She'll just make it back if the Inkling is really good at recovering. Against Kirby, it's kind of similar to Jigglypuff. You kind of want to back air the whole game. They can't really do much about it. In neutral, Kirby doesn't really have the mobility to deal with Inkling. He has like the frame data, but not the mobility to deal with it. Like if he tries to jump in, it just doesn't work. You can just back air. And Kirby can't really do much about it. Edge guarding Kirby is pretty good for Inkling, since you can just hit one of their jumps and back air to up B. Kirby can't really edge guard Inkling a lot of the time. If he tries to down air Inkling's up B, Inkling can pretty much just bait out the down air and just up B back. Inkling can punish Kirby for going for the down air. You can just edge guard him back and probably get the stock for it. So that's a pretty good matchup for Inkling. I don't think. Very annoying on Wi-Fi. Probably put it up here, but I think offline this matchup is slightly in Inkling's favor. The reason why it's not down here is because Gordo is kind of annoying to deal with as Inkling. You would think backer's pretty good against it, but it's kind of hard to time. You have to know when it's going to come and know where it's going to be to deal with it. But yeah, it's Dedede. He does get comboed hard, so that's just pretty good for Inkling in the matchup. Killing this character out of most of the heavies is kind of hard, since anti-airing Dedede is good, but if you miss, you'll just get back-aired. It's a matchup you cannot sleep on. Like, some people think it's even, which I can totally understand, but I think Inkling does have the slight advantage offline. So, King K. Rool, I think it's one of these tiers. I'm going to put it here for right now. I think neutral is kind of something you have to deal with in the matchup. I think it's the only thing that's threatening in the matchup. To deal with side B, you have to jump over the crowd and then just grab them and do combos off them. And for blunderbuss, it's kind of the same, except you don't go for a grab this time, just go for a forward air or a back air. But yeah, I think K-Rool does kind of can do some stuff in neutral. He does get comboed pretty hard. His upper pretty big. He's easy to edge guard. A lot of K-Rools do nair at a disadvantage, so it's pretty easy to read that as well. But yeah, I don't think this match you don't have to sleep on either. I could definitely see it being slight advantage, but I wouldn't say that much. I think Link is slight advantage or even. In neutral, it's kind of tricky to deal with Link, but I wouldn't say it's anything you're not used to. It's pretty not that hard if you know the matchup. If you know the Link is going to Boomerang, like he's probably going to dash back in Boomerang, so you just gotta interrupt the start of Boomerang, and you should stuff it out pretty well. And against Bomb, you gotta grab it and throw it off stage. You can also use Splash Shot to get rid of Bomb. Like, just knowing how to deal with projectiles is just important in this matchup. Linomac can't really keep up with Inkling on the ground. I would actually say Roller is pretty good in this matchup, since Linomac a lot of the time is staying grounded. If Linomac does jump at all, he's always going to Tomahawk, obviously, so you can just roll him for doing that or grab him. So if you know he's gonna jump, you can just grab him. And this platform, you platform camp him pretty hard. Because it's Lucario. A lot of people don't know how good this matchup is. I kind of don't know either, but I would say it's probably in here. The scary thing about this matchup is that if Inkling doesn't kill Lucario, he can easily snowball Inkling for not getting the kill, and he can just take the lead from there. Something to note in this matchup is that his upper is pretty big. It's like a 24% window or something. It's a pretty big window. If you're trying to up B to the ledge, you can 2-frame him extremely easily. You can even 2-frame him with down smash and you'll die at 100. It's definitely a weird matchup that's kind of hard to say where it is. But if you capitalize off the edge guarding and getting the grass for upper, I think it'll be pretty good. You should be fine. but if you don't get the kill, it can be annoying. So Lucas, I think it is a slight advantage. I think in neutral, it's a little tough. You have to watch out for Lucas's hitboxes. I think his forward is pretty good, and PK Fire can be a threat in neutral. He's got to play a little more patient than normal. If he has to PK Thunder, you have to go out there and edge guard him. You can do it offline, even easier in online, so that's good. Kind of it I want to talk about in this matchup. This matchup is actually really weird to talk about. It's not really much to note, but Inkling doesn't completely destroy this character, so that's all I know. Lucina. I think Inkling can whip punish his character pretty well. If your whip punishing is on point, you should be able to do it. Backer can also stuff out Lucina's aerials pretty well as well, so that's also really good. It's honestly a pretty neutral matchup. Like, there's a lot of mix-ups Lucina can do when she jumps. Like, she could decide beat the mix-up when she wants to get whip punished. Yeah, it's just a pretty neutral based matchup. Inkling can get some edge guards on Lucina if you get them really well. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good matchup for Inkling. Pretty good top tier matchup. So I think Luigi is slight advantage. I think this matchup is also kind of weird to talk about. I think it could be even, but I'm going to put it a slight win for now. In neutral, you gotta have to rely on some backers, because this neutral is weird. You have to like get into his zone to deal with him. Up to upper also doesn't exist on this character. It's a 50-50. But if he doesn't down B, you should be able to get it. You also have to nail your edge guards when he wants to side B back to stage. So you have to nail your edge guards all the time. Pretty much all I need to say for this matchup, I would say. There's not really much to it. You just gotta get into the zone in neutral, near your edge guards. That's pretty much it. Alright, so Mario. I think this matchup is a -1 for Inkling. Rising Jump Fireball is pretty annoying in this matchup. He can pretty much beat Inkling's dash. Is really good at dealing with it. Mario's frame data is really good. He has really good out of shield options and boxing tools to deal with Inkling. Mario's frame data is really good, and his combos are better than Inkling, so he can get a lot of damage if he wins neutral once. Mario is also decently hard to edge guard, not the hardest, but you have to watch for your edge guards and all Mario's habits to edge guard him. A lot of Marios actually don't know the matchup. The only Mario that knows the matchup the best is Dark Wizzy. He plays this matchup extremely well. I fought Dark Wizzy in sub games a lot, and I always lose to him. The matchup's so hard. Like, if you think this matchup is even, fight Dark Wizzy, you'll change your mind. It is really weird. So Marth's pretty similar to Lucina. It's definitely at least slight win or winning down here. It's actually the exact same matchup, but Marth is slightly more inconsistent than Lucina, so yeah, that's all you need to know. This matchup's kind of hard, especially on Wi-Fi. I think this matchup on Wi-Fi is even, but I think offline this matchup is a little easier to deal with. You can combo Mega Man pretty well and edge guard him pretty well since it's kind of exploitable. Meta Knight's a kind of weird one, I would say. Meta Knight has to rely on getting dash grabs and dash attack, kind of like Inkling, but a little worse. You can't actually edge guard Meta Knight since he has one of the best recoveries in the game, so you have to less trap him, which Inkling is good at, so that's a plus. But yeah, mostly in neutral, Meta Knight is just going to go for dash attacks and dash grabs, so you can just wait that out and punish accordingly. I think Mewtwo slightly loses to Inkling. Inkling does well in this matchup. The only thing you kind of have to worry about in this matchup is Shadow Ball. It's kind of like Samus, where you have to play a little around Shadow Ball. It can be kind of annoying to deal with, but that's the only thing that Mewtwo really has in this matchup. Other than that, like, the matchup's not bad, but like Mewtwo being easy to hit and easy to kill, his up to upper window is pretty big, is kind of rough for Mewtwo in the long run. So for the Miis, the only matchup I don't really know is Brawler, but I think it's a slight advantage. I played it a little bit, it's felt fine. Beginner's camping isn't that much of a threat. I even play this character on Wi-Fi and it doesn't feel that hard to deal with. And for Sword Fighter, their projectiles are kind of annoying to deal with, but once you know how to deal with them, this character doesn't really have much. Like, the character can't really do much once they're figured out. So I'll put me Sword Fighter at least down here. That's what I think. I think Min Min goes even with Inkling. I see a lot of Inkling mains seeing this matchup being in winning or Inkling favored, which I can definitely see, because when Inkling is in advantage state, it's pretty rough for Min Min to do anything about it, I would say. Like, if she's off stage, she might just lose the stock. It's not that hard to edge guard Min Min, I would say. Like, if you try to throw like an arm, an aerial to counteract you edge guard, you can just go under there. Go under her and just go for a neutral air, jump neutral air, and you'll hit her for it. Like, it could be rough for disadvantage for Min Min, but in neutral, it can be kind of annoying to get in, I would say. But once you figure out the Min, it's not the end of the world to get. I don't fucking know. But once you get in versus Min, it's pretty not that hard to deal with. It's just getting hits a little hard, but it's not that bad, I would say. It's kind of like Mega Man. So Game & Watch, I think this matchup, I kind of used to think it was even before, which I can still see, but I'm going to put it in slight loss for now. Game & Watch in neutral, he doesn't have the best neutral, so if he just nairs the neutral, you can probably whip punish it if your timing is perfect. Or if you know he's going to spot dodge after the neutral air, you can just grab it, jab it, some things you can do to it. Game & Watch advantage state is extremely good, like it's really, really good, which is kind of very annoying to deal with as Inkling, since her disadvantage isn't that good when she's in the air. So that's just a plus for Game & Watch. This is really good for Game & Watch here. Game & Watch is also decent at edge guarding Inkling, like back air is a pretty good tool for dealing with her. One thing you can do offline is if you know the Game & Watch is going to back air, once you see the back air come out and you know it's not gonna hit, you can just back air Game & Watch for it. So yeah, neutral, you kind of have the edge, but once you lose neutral, it's pretty bad, I would say. It's kind of hard to do anything about it. So for Mythra and Pyra, I would say that this matchup is even. I'm going to talk about the characters individually. So for Mythra has a really good advantage state in neutral, so you don't really get to play the game a lot of the time, but once you win neutral, you might take the stock since her recovery is not that good. It's kind of like Fox, like he'll just control the game for the entire time until you win neutral once, and you can just come back from it. And Pyra just loses the Inkling. Like, she doesn't have the mobility to deal with her at all. And you can whip punish and parry Pyra, all of her aerials and stuff. So yeah, I'll say it's even or a slight win, but I will lean towards even here. I think Ness is slight advantage. Neutral is kind of tricky since Ness has some pretty good anti-airs to deal with back air. And if he knows I'm going to dash, stay on the ground, he can just PK fire and get damage off of that. So neutral, you just gotta play a little patient and you should be fine. Ness's yo-yo on the ledge when Inkling's recovery is actually pretty good against Inkling. It's actually one of the better recoveries he's actually one of the best recoveries you can use yo-yo on. You just gotta SCI down and DI down to get away from yo-yo, like not let it connect. But if the Ness like hits you with yo-yo once you run into it, you can just release it right when Inkling grabs the ledge, and it's kind of annoying to deal with. For Inkling to deal with yo-yo, she has to go a little over the ledge, because it's usually going to be down smash, which doesn't cover high. So yeah, you just gotta go over the ledge, and sometimes you can get past yo-yo. Like if you got the ledge, yo-yo just won't hit you sometimes, but it's kind of rare. Edge guarding Ness is not that hard. You can actually use Splash Shot to catch his air dodge sometimes and down tilt, and then extend off that. For Pac-Man, I think this matchup is a slight loss. Hydrant overall is really good for dealing with Inkling on the ground. It just stops her in place, like stops the neutral game for Inkling. And Inkling doesn't really have the moves, like fast enough moves to get rid of Hydrant, so that's just good against Inkling. And when Pac-Man is camping, it can be really hard to kill Pac-Man, I would say. Like his upper window is only like 109%. And it's just really hard to kill Pac-Man, I would say. In this match, you kind of have to play patient as Inkling, and you should be fine. Like, if you're really good at the matchup, you should be doing fine, but overall, I think Pac-Man has a slight advantage. You can actually deal with Pac-Man's recovery decently well. Like, if you side B's to the ledge, you can splatter shot his pellet, so he has to up B. Or you can just back air his side B at higher percents, because it only has heavy armor. Something else you can do against Pac-Man is if he does Hydrant at disadvantage, you just intercept him and up him at kill percent, and he'll die for it. So that's something to note. So Palutena, another really good top tier matchup for Inkling. I think this matchup is a slight win. One of Palu's best tools in general against the whole cast is neutral air. It catches a lot of characters' jumps. So Palu cannot spam neutral air in this matchup, or she'll get dash grabbed with punish literally every time. It's so easy to whip punish. So Palu can't nair for free in this matchup, which means it's harder for her to get consistent damage. So that's just really good to note for this matchup. Saying all that, Palu is still decently good on the ground. She has dash attack, forward air. Even though it got worse, it's still pretty good. And back air to deal with Inkling on the ground. But offline, it will be a lot easier to deal with Palu's movement on the ground. Like, dealing with her on the ground is not super hard, but online, it's a little hard to deal with. Palu's upper window is also pretty huge. It's like 109 to 128, I think. Or 110 to 128. It's a pretty big window. That's all I need to know. Palu also can't really edgeguard Inkling, like she can edgeguard most characters with neutral air. Yeah, overall Inkling just has the edge in this matchup, I would say. So for Peach, I think Inkling slightly loses the Peach. I think back air in this matchup is really good against Peach, since Peach doesn't really can't really deal with back air, which is why I think I can see it being even. But Peach's damage output is overall really good, so she just wins neutral once, you might just take 50 almost every time. Using roller against Peach is kind of hard since she'll be in the air floating on the ground, so you can't use roller against it. Not really much else to say about this matchup. It's actually a pretty normal matchup. You just gotta watch out for what Peach wants to do using float. So Pichu, I think Inkling slightly wins. Pichu is known for being hard to hit, but Inkling does not struggle hitting this character at all. He has the tools to deal with that. If Pichu does get his hit in, he can do a lot of damage. He can just get stuff started. But if you play the Inkling way, she won't really get much started. It will be pretty much Inkling's favor, I would say. Now Pikachu is a losing matchup. That's all I need to say. Something that Pikachu can do that Pichu can't do is use T-Jolt. And T-Jolt is kind of annoying to deal with. It's kind of like Jump Fireball like Mario. Like T-Jolt in neutral is really annoying to deal with. You have to mix up what you want to do to get away from T-Jolt. And T-Jolt is really good against Inkling, I would say. It's really good on the ground. If Pikachu wants to use back air neutral, Inkling can kind of deal with that. You can just dash grab it. Pikachu is actually a pretty hard character to up throw up air. It is a 5% window, it's 99 to 103, but it's still really hard to land. It's really hard and it is pretty much invalidated on some stages. There are times where you can edge guard Pikachu and Pichu. Like if they have to skull badge to get back onto the stage, you can just forward air them and kill them at kill percent, which is really good. There are times where both these characters can edge guard each other even though they're really hard to edge guard. If Pikachu does have the lead, she can just camp with T-Jolt and not approach, and it'll be kind of hard for Inkling to do anything about it. But if Inkling does have the lead, it's a little easier. It's probably an even matchup from there. I think Plant is a slight advantage for Inkling. Plant doesn't really have the mobility to deal with Inkling. If she does Putui randomly neutral, you just gotta grab them, maybe wait a little bit and just up throw, and you won't really have to deal with it. Edge guarding Plant is also pretty good since there's no hitbox on the top of his up B, so you can get edge guard kills off that. Yeah, so this is a pretty good matchup, pretty standard Inkling matchup. Plant doesn't have the mobility to do with Inkling on the ground. So for PT, I think this matchup is even. Offline, I think online this matchup is losing, but offline I think it's even. I think she does pretty well against Squirtle and Ivysaur for the most part. I think Ivysaur is the better character to use in this matchup since Razor Leaf is just pretty good at dealing with Inkling on the ground. Ivysaur can't really edge guard Inkling with Dare or anything. She could probably use Nair, but Dare's not really a threat on Inkling since Inkling can mix up her recovery pretty well. Up throw upper works on Charizard and Ivysaur. It doesn't work on Squirtle at all. PT is pretty good at dealing with up throw upper since you can swap to another character to get out of a range from Charizard. Like if you switch to Charizard to Squirtle, the ranges for those characters are different, so you don't have to deal with up throw upper as much. You can ledge trap PT pretty hard since they're not that great on the ledge. Yeah, the matchup is pretty back and forth, pretty even matchup I would say. I think Inkling does pretty well against the Belmonts. I would say Inkling doesn't really care about your projectiles that much and they're really bad off stage. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for that. It's not much to it. Ridley is super big. She can't really deal with Inkling on the ground. Ridley is super easy to combo. Down throw is really good on this character. And his up throw upper window is really huge. It's really big. Matchup's rough for Ridley. Like he's super big and he dies pretty easily. Like Inkling's struggle to kill does not exist on this character. Like it's so not that hard to kill this character at all. So R.O.B is arguably Inkling's hardest matchup. This matchup's actually even harder on Wi-Fi, like since you can't react to what R.O.B can do. Gyro controls Inkling's neutral pretty well on the ground. Like Inkling can't just move freely on the ground against R.O.B. You have to be really good at Z catching the gyro and picking it up and throwing it up, so you don't have to deal with gyro as much in the matchup. The problem with this matchup is neutral. Neutral is just really annoying, especially when R.O.B has gyro. His up throw upper window is also not that big, so it can be kind of hard to kill if you don't get the edge guards. It's just neutrals is really hard for Inkling, and R.O.B can extend really hard off of winning neutral. Like his advantage state's really good. And that's a tough matchup, but once it's learned, it's not super bad offline, but online it's just terrible. It's so hard. This tier is starting to turn into this character cannot deal with Inkling on the ground, and they have a big up throw upper window probably. Drop him right here. Inkling doesn't really care too much for Robin's projectile usage. Like Arc Fire, you can run under. Robin's recovery is also pretty exploitable as well. So for Rosa, I think this matchup is even. I think neutral can be a bit tricky since Rosa can roll out Inkling pretty well, if she has lead especially. That's the only thing you really need to know about this matchup. There's not much to it, it's just neutral can be hard. But you can do advantage shape pretty well, edge guard him pretty well, let's trap him pretty well. I actually want to talk about Roy and Chrom at the same time. This matchup is a little better than Chrom, but not by much. Roy's recovery is a little bit better. You got to be more precise for edge guarding Roy than Chrom. Kind of like the Chrom matchup. But yeah, it's just recovery is a little harder to deal with, but it's not much different. I think Sephiroth loses the Inkling slightly, or it could be even. It could be either or, but I'm going to go down to slight win. Sephiroth aerials do not hit Inkling a lot of the time. Like, he can't use forwarder like he used to in most matchups, or back air. You have to use an air in this matchup. If you know Sephiroth's going to side B, you're going to just jump back air and get a combo off that. Roller is actually it's decently notable against Sephiroth since his moves have slow startup, so dealing with Roller can be hard, at least online. First, you can counter Roller, but Inkling can cancel Roller before it actually triggers counter and just jump over him. And yeah, it doesn't really do anything, I would say. So Sheik is actually pretty similar to Mythra, where you don't really get to play the game a lot of the time. Well, I wouldn't say that, especially when you lose neutral. These two characters are pretty neutral based, but I think Sheik has probably a very slightly better neutral. Like, he'll be winning neutral a little bit better. But I think Inkling can even it back up pretty well. It's like, it's not that hard at all. You just gotta win neutral once and you can even it back up. Sheik's upper window is kinda big as well, so it's not that hard killing Sheik from a grab. Yeah, I think it just goes like that a lot of the time. I think Shulk is pretty hard. If Shulk has the lead and there's platforms, good luck. You're getting platform camp, bro. And you're probably not gonna come back either. Shulk's actually the only sword character that Inkling can't whiff punish super well. Probably aside from Pyra Mythra, well, Mythra, but like, character sword is too big, bro. Upper isn't really a thing in this matchup when Shulk has shield art, but it's pretty relevant when he doesn't have it. So Sonic, I think, is slight advantage or even. I'm gonna put it here. Inkling also has Roller and Splash Shot to deal with Splendash to stuff him out. Not much else to it. You just gotta play the Sonic matchup, and yeah, I think Inkling just has the tools better than most characters. No, Snake loses the Inkling. I think it's +1. Snake is combo food, so when Inkling gets a grab, it can be really bad, and you can take a lot of damage. Inking up Snake is also really good, since he takes up more damage from taking self-damage from his grenades. Splatter Shot is also really good against Snake, since if he shields it, he has the time when he wants to throw the grenade and might explode in his hand when he releases shield, so that's something that Snake has to look out for. If Inkling has the lead, it's really hard for Snake to come back, but it's kind of like that vice versa, but that's Snake in general. I think Terry is slight advantage. This matchup, you have to play a little bit more patient, because Terry is usually going to press the first button. Terry is pretty easy to edge guard, I would say, and his upper window is, I think, the biggest in the game. Terry, I would say, is pretty annoying to fight, but I think Inkling does have the edge. I think Toon Link goes even with Inkling. His projectiles are really annoying, but if you're good at playing around them, it's not that big of a deal. You can't play super linear against Toon Link. That's something to just keep in mind, or you'll just lose. Toon Link can easily take advantage of that. Upper doesn't really exist in this character. Well, I wouldn't say that. It's just really hard if you landed it on him. Upper is pretty hard on this character. It's possible. It's definitely possible, but it's just really hard. It's not going to happen as much. And his recovery is pretty exploitable, so yeah, Inkling can take advantage of that. So Yoshi, I think this matchup is even. I could definitely see it being up here though. I think Yoshi can deal with Inkling pretty well in neutral, like he does have the right buttons to do it. Upper actually doesn't exist on Yoshi a lot of the time, but it's possible. It's like a 2% window, but double jump makes it really hard for it to do that. You have to be really on point for comboing Yoshi because he does have a frame 1 out with his double jump armor. For edge guarding, if Yoshi does have to air dodge to the ledge, you can splatter shot the ledge, and Yoshi might not have enough resources to come back to the ledge. I would say it's a pretty even matchup. I definitely won't think it's winning, but I could definitely see him being up here though. It's definitely possible. Villager is kind of like Isabelle. Kind of wanted to explain these matchups at the same time, but oh well. You have to edge guard Villager, slingshot. It's kind of annoying in neutral. It's not that hard to deal with. And Lloyd Rocket, you have to just mix up your options to trying to avoid it. So Wario, I know some people want to know how I think about this matchup after the nerfs. I kind of thought pre-patch that this matchup wasn't terrible. You just gotta play neutral really well. Like in neutral, I think Wario didn't really have a good time like opening up because it's really hard to hit Inkling with neutral air and stuff. Like if you either back air his shield, he's not gonna nair out a shield you. You can just punish in air with a dash grab. So I think neutral is in Inkling's favor for most of the time. And post-patch, Waff is not really a threat in this matchup as much as it was before, obviously. So I would say it's definitely even now. But I think pre-patch it was only slight loss. I don't think it was that bad. Wii Fit, I think it is a +1. A lot of what Wii Fit wants to do is go to lead and use volleyball. Splatter Shot is actually really good at dealing with volleyball. You just pushes it away. It might hit Wii Fit for even going for it. A lot of what Wii Fit wants to do in neutral is try to get hits on you, and Roller can beat a lot of those options out, like F-tilt and stuff. I think Wii Fit's hitboxes are kind of weird to deal with Inkling. I wouldn't say they do that good at it. So yeah, that's pretty much the matchup in a nutshell. Young Link, I would say, is kind of similar to Toon Link. His projectiles is not super hard to deal with offline. They're annoying, but this is as hard as it's going to get. His recovery is pretty exploitable. Yeah, it's pretty much the same as Toon Link, I would say. Just that Young Link has better combos off his projectiles, and that's about it. Something you have to look out for, but as long as you play around the projectiles, it shouldn't be that hard. Zelda's a weird matchup. I think Zelda has Phantom, and that's it. Like, Zelda doesn't have the mobility to deal with Inkling. Her upper window is huge. Like, it's just kind of rough for Zelda. Phantom is really good in the matchup, like in neutral sometimes and for ledge trapping, but that's as far as Zelda's going to go in the matchup. For ZSS, I think that this matchup is slight advantage. I can definitely see it being up here though, but I think it's slight win. ZSS has a really hard time hitting Inkling, and backer is pretty good at stopping her jumps approaches, so I think that's good. If ZSS does have the lead, she can circle camp you really hard. ZSS's upper window is also pretty big, so it's not that hard to get a grab and kill her off of it. And for the last matchup, we have Wolf. Wolf's neutral is honestly pretty good against Inkling. She has the aerials to deal with him. Like, whip punishing him is kind of risky since Wolf can tomahawk attack you pretty well or double jump out of it. Layers is also pretty good against Inkling as well. I would say neutral is pretty even for the most part. Like, both characters are pretty neutral characters. Like, the game will be kind of slow because of it. Edge guarding Wolf is not the easiest thing in the world. Like, if the Wolf is good at mixing up the recovery, it's kind of hard to edge guard him, I would say. It's not the easiest thing in the world. I would say Wolf is a little harder to get his openings on Inkling than for Inkling on Wolf, I would say. But once Wolf does get a hit in it, it could be pretty lethal. And yeah, guys, those are my current thoughts of Inkling's matchups right now. I think she actually has really good matchups. She wins like against half the cast, not loses too many matchups. So yeah, she's pretty good. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Really helps out a lot. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.